Welcome to the new look Highland League Weekly Friday preview show, coming to you on both the Press and Journal website and direct to social media, including places like YouTube. First up, Callum Law tells us all we need to know about this weekend's two highlights games.
The main game for us this week on Highland League Weekly will be 3rd versus 5th in the Breedon Highland League. It's Brora Rangers versus Formartine United at Dudgeon Park. Brora have been in excellent form of late. They've scored 14 goals in their last two games. However, Formartine have kept 2 clean sheets in their last 2 outings, so I'm sure they'll fancy their chances of keeping Brora quiet. If United were to leave Dudgeon Park with the 3 points, they would go level on points with Brora, although Brora do have 3 games in hand. Stuart Golobic at the moment remains in interim charge of Brora, and they're still very much in the title race, 9 points behind leaders Bucky, but they do have 3 games in hand on the Jags. It's all set up to be a cracker, and you can see it on Monday night on Highland League Weekly.
My old granda used to take me up. Didn't care much about it, I can't remember much about it because we just ran about and played front of the stand there. But my first recollection was in season 57-58 when I wanted to go to Montrose Scottish Cup game.
The second game for us this weekend is Keith versus Forest Mechanics at Kynech Park, and here's 3 things you need to know. The sides have met twice already this term. Keith won the reverse league fixture at Mossett Park 2-1, but when they met again in the Highland League Cup, it was Forest who prevailed 2-0 at Kynech Park. Keith manager Craig Ewan, certainly a familiar face to Forest players and supporters. He spent 5 years as assistant manager to Charlie Rowley at the Can-Cans before leaving in August 2021 to take over as Keith manager. Forest Mechanics, they'll be hoping for a welcome away win in the Breedon Highland League. They haven't won on the road in the league since the 13th of August against Inverurie Locos at Harlaw Park, so I'm sure Stephen McDonald and the Can-Cans will be thrilled if they come away from Kynech Park with 3 points.
Okay, welcome to Crystal Paul. It's back after last week's debut where me and Paul disgraced ourselves.
Millpois, that's what you're looking for, Ryan.
Oh yeah. We're back again, we'll have another go. Just to remind you of the way this all works, me and Paul try and guess the result in our 2 filmed games this weekend. If we get the result, it's 1 point, but if we get the correct score instead, we get 3 points, and there's also an additional 3 points up for grabs if we can predict the first scorer in each game. Okay, so let's start with our big game this weekend. Paul, it's Brora Rangers against Formartine United at Dudgeon Park. Score?
I'm going to go for goals aplenty in this one, and I think Brora will edge it 4-2. Is that what you want to say? Good stuff. So you need to pick a different... you can pick the same one as me if you like, Ryan.
I'm going to say 5-2 Brora Rangers.
Oof, my first scorer's got to be a McRae. I'm going to go for Jordan McRae.
Mine's going to be Max Youth. Second game then, Keith against Forest Mechanics at Kynech Park. Keith, they've been out of action. Which way do you think this is going to go?
I can't remember.
But you make it up on the spot.
I know. Keith are going to win 2-1, I think. And I'm going to go for Kieran Mooney for first scorer.
I think it's going to be an away win for Forest Mechanics, 3-1. I think there were 2 3-1s in the Highland League potentially last weekend, so that seems like a reasonably common score. So we'll go 3-1 Forest Mechanics, and Ben Barron is going to be the first goal scorer. So check in next week to find out that once again we're all wrong. And
but we're consistent.
It's still no points, and maybe eventually somebody will pick up a point in this. But yeah.
Probably Messi. I absolutely love him. I think he's the best player that probably ever played the game.
Buckie trying to continue to set the pace at the top of the league, keep themselves in top spot. Inverurie, by the time the game comes around, they might have a new manager, but regardless, they'll be buoyed by a fine win against Evertonvale last weekend.
No margin for error for champions Fraserburgh if they have any hope of retaining their league title, but it'll be easier said than done against a Nairn County side looking to bounce back from their first defeat in 9 games last weekend.
Lossiemouth got a much needed win last weekend against Strathspey Thistle. Their impact subs Fraser Forbes and Ross Archibald making the difference. Brecon City weren't in action last weekend because their game at home to Fraserburgh was rained off, which saw Buckie Thistle overtake them at the top of the table, so expect Brecon to come roaring back.
The Vale, they haven't won since the 26th of November. They've been close in a few games but haven't managed to get the result they've been after. Huntly seeking that little bit of consistency, 2-0 defeat last weekend against Formartine, following up a 2-0 win against Turriff United a fortnight ago.
Wick back amongst the goals after scoring 3 at Clach last weekend will be fancying their chances as they return home. But Strathspey Thistle, only a win this season has come away from home. Could Saturday be the time they get a second?
Clach sore home defeat last week, 3-1 against Wick Academy. Kind of need a win at home. Clach Banks of D, meanwhile, got back to winning ways at home against Turriff United with a 2-0 win under their interim management team. This game's actually 15th against 17th due to D's points deduction earlier in the season, but this looks like the moment where D could start putting a fresh run together.
The sides have met already this season, with Rothes winning 6-1 at McKessick Park. They'll be hoping for a repeat. Turriff looking for a little bit of inspiration in the final third. They've drawn a blank in their last 2 games, and they're also set to be without striker Ewan Clark, who's struggling with a groin injury.
That's it for this week's Highland League Weekly Friday preview show then. Just a reminder to tune in to the Press and Journal website at 7 p.m. on Monday night for highlights of Brora Rangers against Formartine United and Keith against Forest Mechanics. The only thing that's left to sort out is to announce firstly the winner of last week's competition, which was to tell us which current Highland League club have won the most titles. The answer was of course Clatnacudden with 18, and our winner who commented on YouTube with the correct answer was Brian Niche. So Brian, get in touch with us. There's an email address going to show up on the screen and you're going to give us your details so we can send you a Highland League Weekly mug. If you'd like to win a mug this week, or I mean I could probably organise Crystal Paul to read your fortune for you or something.
It'll cost you
Then
a fortune.
You have to tell us which player currently, before this weekend's games, has the most Highland League goals this season so far. If you can tell us that in the comments below, then as I said, you'll have a choice of prizes. I can't imagine you'll probably opt for the mug. Anyway, if you've enjoyed the Friday preview show, like and subscribe on on whichever platform you're watching this in, and enjoy the football this weekend.